The man charged with killing this woman from Cleveland, her body discovered here, has just turned himself in.
A Ring doorbell camera sits quietly on a front porch in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. It's November 24th, 2022. Thanksgiving night. The camera records everything that happens outside this ordinary house. But what it captured that evening would expose a horrifying secret buried beneath concrete and lies. 23-year-old Adriana Taylor had been missing for weeks. Her family in Cleveland, Ohio hadn't heard from her since early October. They filed a missing person report, hoping someone somewhere had seen their daughter. Police searched. The FBI got involved, but Adriana seemed to have vanished without a trace. What nobody knew was that her live-in boyfriend, Anthony Kennedy, had been making threats at work. He told his co-workers he was going to kill Adriana. People heard him say it, but nobody reported it. Nobody took action. Have you ever noticed suspicious activity in your neighborhood that made you call the police? Let me know in the comments, because what happened next shows just how important it is to speak up. That Ring camera footage would lead investigators to a backyard where they made a discovery that shocked everyone. Adriana's body was found buried under layers of wet and dry concrete. She had been shot in the head. But this wasn't just a murder, it was a crime that crossed state lines, involving workplace threats, ignored warning signs, and a calculated cover-up that almost worked. The question that haunted everyone was simple. How did a missing person case from Cleveland end up as a murder scene in Pennsylvania? And what role did that security camera play in solving this case? Welcome to our channel. Right now there are thousands of women like Adriana who are living with partners who have made threats against their lives, completely unaware that those threats are about to become reality. If you want to help spread awareness about domestic violence and the warning signs that could save innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another woman who might be in danger. October 8th, 2022. That was the last day Adriana Taylor's family heard her voice, the last text message, the last phone call. After that date, complete silence. Adriana lived with her boyfriend Anthony Kennedy in a duplex on West 98th Street in Cleveland. They shared the upstairs unit together. To the outside world, they looked like a normal couple. But inside that house, something was very wrong. Days turned into weeks. Adriana's phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media accounts went quiet. Her family tried calling Kennedy, but he gave them different stories each time. First, he said she was visiting friends. Then he claimed she had gone out of town. The stories kept changing. Edgar Hoyle had known Adriana since middle school. He was one of her closest friends. Looking back now, he remembers the last conversation they had. "I wish I could bring you back," he would later say. "I miss your soul, your energy." But Edgar was carrying a heavy burden. He had noticed red flags about Kennedy. Something about the way Kennedy treated Adriana didn't feel right. The age difference bothered him. Kennedy was 43. Adriana was only 23. There were other warning signs, too. "I had a red flag," Edgar admitted later. "I didn't say anything because I'm like, you're grown, it's your business. I'm not your father, I'm your friend." Those words would haunt Edgar forever. He saw the danger, but stayed silent. By early November, Adriana's family couldn't wait any longer. They knew something terrible had happened. On November 13th, 2022, they walked into the Cleveland Police Department and filed an official missing person report. Adriana had been gone for 35 days. The police started asking questions. They talked to Kennedy multiple times. His stories kept changing. First, he said Adriana left on her own. Then he claimed they had a fight and she stormed out. He couldn't keep his facts straight. Meanwhile, Kennedy was acting strange at work. His co-workers noticed he seemed different. He was more aggressive, more angry. And then he said something that should have sent up red flags everywhere. Kennedy told people at work that he was going to kill Adriana. He said it more than once. His co-workers heard these threats, but nobody reported them to police, nobody took action. The 35-day gap between Adriana's last contact and the missing person report gave Kennedy plenty of time. Time to cover his tracks, time to move evidence, time to cross state lines. Investigators started piecing together a timeline. They discovered that Adriana's car had been found abandoned in Pennsylvania. Why would her car be in another state? Kennedy had previously lived in Pennsylvania and still had family there. The search was expanding beyond Ohio. Police in multiple states were now looking for Adriana Taylor, but they had no idea they were already too late. The truth about what happened to Adriana was buried under concrete, waiting to be discovered. Adriana Taylor and Anthony Kennedy lived together in the upstairs unit of a duplex on West 98th Street in Cleveland. From the outside, it looked like any other relationship, but the people closest to Adriana could see something wasn't right. The age gap was the first thing everyone noticed. Adriana was 23 years old, full of life and energy. Kennedy was 43, old enough to be her father. 20 years separated them, and with that came a power imbalance that worried her friends and family. But it wasn't just the age difference. Kennedy had a reputation for having anger issues. People who knew him described him as someone who could explode without warning. His temper was unpredictable and frightening. Adriana's aunt, Kelly McAlpin, had met Kennedy before. She didn't like what she saw. There was something about his behavior that made her uncomfortable. The way he controlled conversations, the way he seemed to watch Adriana's every move. But like so many family members in these situations, she didn't know how to bring up her concerns without pushing Adriana away. The most disturbing red flags came from Kennedy's workplace. This is where the threat started. Kennedy didn't just think about hurting Adriana, he talked about it openly with his coworkers. Kennedy came to work stating he was going to kill Adriana, according to police reports. He said this more than once. Multiple coworkers heard these threats. They weren't jokes or casual comments made in anger. Kennedy was telling people at work that he planned to murder his girlfriend. Think about that for a moment. A man is telling his co-workers he's going to kill someone, and nobody calls the police. Nobody reports it. Nobody takes action to protect Adriana. This is one of the most tragic parts of this story. The warning signs were everywhere, but people stayed silent. Edgar Hoyle, Adriana's childhood friend, carried the heaviest burden of all. He had known Adriana since middle school. He could see that something was wrong in her relationship with Kennedy. "I feel like this is something I should have talked to her about," Edgar said later. "I had a red flag. I didn't say anything because I'm like, you're grown, it's your business. I'm not your father, I'm your friend." Edgar's words show how difficult it can be to speak up when you're worried about someone. He didn't want to overstep boundaries, he didn't want to seem controlling or judgmental, so he stayed quiet, hoping Adriana would figure things out on her own. But Edgar wasn't the only one who noticed problems. Other friends saw the way Kennedy treated Adriana. They noticed how he seemed possessive and jealous. They saw how Adriana seemed different when she was around him, quieter, more careful about what she said. The pattern was clear to everyone except the people who could have done something about it. Kennedy's co-workers heard death threats but didn't report them. Adriana's friends saw controlling behavior but didn't intervene. Her family noticed red flags but didn't push the issue. This is how domestic violence often works. The warning signs are there, but they're ignored or dismissed. People assume someone else will speak up. They think it's not their place to get involved. They hope the situation will improve on its own. Kennedy also worked with Adriana, which gave him even more control over her daily life. He could monitor who she talked to at work, he could influence her schedule, he could make sure she was never far from his sight. The workplace threats became more frequent as time went on. Kennedy's anger was building, and everyone around him could see it. But still, nobody picked up the phone to call police. Nobody warned Adriana that her boyfriend was telling people he wanted to kill her. Those missed opportunities would soon become a matter of life and death. When Adriana Taylor was officially reported missing on November 13, 2022, the Cleveland Police Department knew they were dealing with more than a simple missing person case. The 35-day gap between her last contact and the report meant the trail was already cold. Detective teams started with the basics. They interviewed Kennedy multiple times. Each time, his story changed. First, he said Adriana had left after an argument. Then he claimed she was visiting friends out of state. When pressed for details, he couldn't provide names or addresses. The inconsistencies in Kennedy's statements raised immediate red flags. Experienced investigators know that when someone's story keeps changing, they're usually hiding something. But changing stories aren't enough for an arrest. Police needed evidence. The case quickly expanded beyond Cleveland's city limits. Adriana's car had been discovered abandoned in Pennsylvania. This was a crucial development because it meant the investigation now crossed state lines. The FBI was brought in to assist with the multi-state search. Why would Adriana's car be in Pennsylvania? Kennedy had previously lived there and still had family in the state. This connection couldn't be ignored. Federal agents started coordinating with Pennsylvania law enforcement agencies. The search involved multiple police departments, the FBI, and even U.S. Marshals. Resources were being pooled from different agencies because everyone understood the urgency. A young woman was missing, and every day that passed reduced the chances of finding her alive. Investigators combed through Kennedy's background. They discovered his history in Pennsylvania and identified family members who still lived there. His sister either currently lived or had recently lived in Wilkinsburg, a borough near Pittsburgh. The FBI began monitoring Kennedy's movements. They tracked his phone records and looked for any connections to Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, Cleveland police continued searching the duplex on West 98th Street where Kennedy and Adriana had lived together. Have you ever had concerns about a friend or family member who went missing, even for a short time? What state or country are you watching from? Let me know in the comments, because what happened next shows how important community involvement can be in solving these cases. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A neighbor in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, had a Ring doorbell camera installed at their home. This camera had been recording everything that happened on Hill Avenue, including activity at the house where Kennedy's sister lived. When police reviewed the Ring camera footage, they found exactly what they were looking for. The camera had captured suspicious activity in front of the house. Someone had been moving around the property at unusual hours. The timestamp on the video matched the period when Adriana had disappeared. This wasn't just any random activity. The footage showed deliberate, secretive behavior. Someone was clearly trying to avoid being seen. The movements were focused around the backyard area of the property. Police obtained additional video from other cameras in the neighborhood. The evidence was building. Multiple cameras had captured similar suspicious activity around the same time period. On November 24, 2022, Thanksgiving night, police were ready to act on what the Ring camera had shown them. They arrived at the Hill Avenue property in Wilkinsburg around 8:45 p.m. with search warrants and excavation equipment. More cameras captured what happened next. Police activity continued for over 2 hours. Investigators could be seen going in and out of the house, focusing their attention on the backyard area. An investigative vehicle backed into the driveway and remained there for about 2.5 hours. The neighbors watched as police set up floodlights and began digging. This wasn't a routine search. The equipment they brought suggested they were looking for something specific buried in the ground. What the Ring camera had captured was someone burying evidence in that backyard. The suspicious activity wasn't random. It was Kennedy disposing of Adriana's body. The multi-state investigation had led them to this moment. Cleveland police, the FBI, Pennsylvania State Police, and local Wilkinsburg officers were all working together. The coordination between agencies had paid off. But what they found in that backyard would shock even experienced investigators. The level of planning and cover-up involved in this crime went far beyond what anyone had expected. The Ring doorbell camera had become the key witness in a murder case. Without that neighbor's security system, Adriana's body might never have been found. Kennedy's plan to hide his crime across state lines had almost worked. Thanksgiving night, November 24th, 2022. While families across America were gathering for dinner and giving thanks, police in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, were about to make a discovery that would haunt them forever. The excavation began in the backyard of the Hill Avenue property. This wasn't a random location. It was the home where Kennedy's sister either currently lived or had recently lived. Police had been led here by the Ring doorbell camera footage that showed suspicious activity in this exact area. As investigators dug into the ground, they immediately noticed something wasn't right. The soil had been disturbed recently. There were layers of concrete, both wet and dry, that had been poured over a specific area of the yard. Someone had gone to great lengths to hide whatever was buried here. This wasn't a quick cover-up job. This was planned and deliberate. The digging continued under floodlights as neighbors watched from their windows. Police worked carefully, knowing they might be dealing with a crime scene. Every shovel of dirt had to be documented. Every layer of concrete had to be photographed. Then they found it. Buried under all that concrete was a large construction bag. Inside that construction bag was a smaller tote bag, and inside that tote bag was Adriana Taylor's body. The level of planning involved in this burial was shocking. Kennedy hadn't just killed Adriana and buried her. He had wrapped her body in multiple layers, then covered everything with concrete to prevent detection. He thought he had created the perfect hiding place. The medical examiner was called to the scene immediately. The body was carefully removed and transported for autopsy. What they found confirmed everyone's worst fears. Adriana Taylor had died from a gunshot wound to the head. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. She had been murdered, just as Kennedy had threatened to do at work. But the location of the burial revealed something even more disturbing about this crime. Adriana had been killed in Cleveland, Ohio. Her body was found in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. That meant Kennedy had transported her body across state lines. Think about what that means. After killing Adriana, Kennedy had to wrap her body, load it into his vehicle, and drive from Cleveland to Pennsylvania. He had to carry her body into his sister's backyard. He had to dig a grave. He had to bury her under concrete. This wasn't a crime of passion that happened in the heat of the moment. This was cold and calculated. Kennedy had time to think about what he was doing at every step. He could have stopped. He could have called for help. Instead, he chose to cover up his crime. The arrest warrant later confirmed that Kennedy had been seen in the backyard of the Wilkinsburg home around the time Adriana disappeared. Witnesses placed him at the burial site. The evidence was overwhelming. Police also discovered that Kennedy had a history with this Pennsylvania location. He had lived in the state before moving to Cleveland. He knew the area well. He knew his sister's property would be a safe place to hide evidence. The cross-state transportation of Adriana's body made this a federal crime. The FBI's involvement was now fully justified. Kennedy hadn't just committed murder, he had committed murder and then transported the body across state lines to avoid detection. The concrete covering was particularly disturbing to investigators. Kennedy had poured both wet and dry concrete over the burial site. This wasn't something he did quickly. It would have taken time and planning. He would have needed to buy the concrete. He would have needed tools to mix and pour it. Every step of this cover-up showed Kennedy's intent to permanently hide his crime. He thought the concrete would prevent anyone from ever finding Adriana's body. He thought crossing state lines would confuse the investigation. The tote bag and construction bag showed even more planning. Kennedy had wrapped Adriana's body in multiple layers to contain any evidence. He was trying to prevent DNA or other forensic evidence from contaminating the burial site. But Kennedy made one crucial mistake. He didn't account for the Ring doorbell camera that was watching everything he did. That camera captured his suspicious activity and led police directly to Adriana's grave. The discovery on Thanksgiving night brought an end to the search for Adriana Taylor, But it also marked the beginning of a murder investigation that would span multiple states and involve federal authorities. Kennedy's plan to hide his crime had failed. The evidence was buried in that backyard, but it wasn't buried deep enough to escape justice. Adriana's body had been found, and now Kennedy would have to answer for what he had done. With Adriana's body discovered and the evidence mounting against him, Anthony Kennedy became one of America's most wanted fugitives. The FBI launched a nationwide manhunt to find him before he could flee the country or hurt anyone else. Kennedy's face appeared on wanted posters across multiple states. The Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. Police departments from Ohio to Pennsylvania were on high alert, searching for the 43-year-old murder suspect. But Kennedy wasn't hiding in some remote location. He wasn't running from state to state trying to avoid capture. Instead, he was talking to his attorney, Blaine Jones, about what to do next. Jones later revealed that the FBI had told him there was a nationwide manhunt for his client. This wasn't just a local police search. Federal agents across the country were looking for Kennedy. It's always dangerous when you have a warrant, let alone a national manhunt for an arrest warrant like this, Jones explained to reporters. The attorney knew that fugitives on the run often end up getting hurt or killed during arrests. He didn't want that to happen to his client. Kennedy was facing serious charges. He had been charged with aggravated murder in Cleveland Municipal Court. The evidence against him was overwhelming. His fingerprints were at the burial site. Witnesses had seen him in the backyard where Adriana's body was found. His workplace threats had been documented. Jones advised Kennedy that running would only make things worse. Every day he stayed on the run, more charges could be added. Federal charges for transporting a body across state lines were possible. The longer he waited, the more dangerous his situation became. It was Mr. Kennedy's desire to turn himself in as soon as possible, Jones said. He did not want any type of harm to come to him or his family, and quite frankly, he wanted to face the charges. On November 30th, 2022, just 6 days after Adriana's body was discovered, Kennedy made his decision. He walked into the Allegheny County Police Department in Pennsylvania, accompanied by his attorney, and surrendered himself to authorities. The surrender was peaceful. Kennedy didn't resist arrest. He didn't try to negotiate or make demands. He simply turned himself in and was taken into custody by U.S. Marshals who were waiting for him. Kennedy remained silent during his surrender. He didn't make any statements to police or reporters. His attorney did all the talking, calling the surrender the first positive step in dealing with the charges. The legal proceedings moved quickly after Kennedy's arrest. He was extradited back to Ohio to face the murder charges in Cleveland. The evidence against him was so strong that fighting the charges seemed pointless. On Tuesday, Kennedy appeared in court and made a decision that surprised many people. He pleaded guilty to all charges against him: aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, tampering with evidence, and offenses against a human corpse. By pleading guilty, Kennedy avoided a lengthy trial. He also avoided the possibility of the death penalty. In exchange, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing hearing, Kennedy did something unexpected. He apologized. He apologized to his wife and to Adriana Taylor's family for what he had done. Kennedy also revealed his motive for the murder. He told the court that he killed Adriana because he suspected she was in a relationship with another man. But prosecutors made it clear that there was no evidence Adriana was seeing anyone else. Kennedy's jealousy was based on nothing but his own paranoid thoughts. The judge sentenced Kennedy to spend the rest of his life behind bars. There would be no parole, no second chances, no possibility of freedom. Kennedy's decision to surrender and plead guilty brought some closure to Adriana's family, but it couldn't bring her back. During his sentencing hearing, Anthony Kennedy finally revealed why he killed Adriana Taylor. His motive was jealousy, pure and simple. Kennedy told the court that he suspected Adriana was in a relationship with another man. But here's the shocking truth. Prosecutors made it absolutely clear that there was no evidence Adriana was seeing anyone else. None whatsoever. Kennedy's suspicions were completely unfounded. His jealousy was based on nothing but his own paranoid thoughts. This means Adriana died for nothing. She was murdered because of Kennedy's imaginary fears about her cheating. There was no other man, there was no affair, there was no betrayal. Kennedy created this entire scenario in his own mind and then killed an innocent woman because of it. The workplace connection made Kennedy's jealousy even more dangerous. Since they worked together, he could watch Adriana's every move during the day. He could monitor who she talked to. He could see every interaction she had with male coworkers. This constant surveillance fed his paranoid thoughts. The threats Kennedy made at work showed how his jealousy was building over time. He didn't just wake up one day and decide to kill Adriana. The anger had been growing for weeks or months. His co-workers heard him say he was going to kill her, but nobody took action to protect her. Investigators were able to piece together the timeline of Kennedy's crime. The murder happened in Cleveland, Ohio, sometime in early October 2022. After killing Adriana, Kennedy wrapped her body and transported it across state lines to Pennsylvania. He buried her in his sister's backyard in Wilkinsburg, covering the grave with concrete to hide the evidence. Kennedy thought he had committed the perfect crime. He believed crossing state lines would confuse investigators, and the concrete would prevent anyone from ever finding Adriana's body. But Kennedy was wrong. The Ring doorbell camera captured his suspicious activity, and justice finally caught up with him. Edgar Hoyle's words should haunt all of us. I had a red flag. I didn't say anything because I'm like, you're grown, it's your business. I'm not your father, I'm your friend. Edgar's regret shows us that staying silent can have deadly consequences. When you see warning signs in someone's relationship, speak up. It might feel uncomfortable, but it could save a life. The warning signs were everywhere in this case. Kennedy made death threats at work, he had anger issues, he was controlling and jealous. Multiple people noticed these red flags, but nobody reported them to police. Technology played a crucial role in solving Adriana's murder. The Ring doorbell camera captured Kennedy's suspicious activity and led police directly to her burial site. Without that camera, her body might never have been found. This case shows how important community vigilance can be. Neighbors with security cameras can provide evidence that solves crimes. If you see suspicious activity, don't ignore it, report it to police. What do you think could have been done differently to save Adriana's life? Have you ever noticed warning signs in someone's relationship but didn't know how to help? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that matter. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help immediately. Adriana Taylor was just 23 years old when her life was cut short by someone who claimed to love her. Her death sent shockwaves through Cleveland and reminded everyone that domestic violence can happen to anyone, anywhere. Adriana's story has become a powerful reminder about the importance of speaking up when we see warning signs. Her friend Edgar Hoyle's regret about staying silent has inspired others to take action when they notice troubling behavior in relationships around them. Remember, it's not your fault if someone is hurting you. There are people who want to help, and there are safe places to go. Thank you for watching this difficult but important story. If this video helped you understand the warning signs of domestic violence, please hit the like button and share it with others. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who might need to hear them. Subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories that matter, and stay safe out there.